Ed, tell me a little something about Lorraine. I've covered this story for the last 10 years, and when I've learned about her, I heard that people just absolutely loved her.
Lorraine was my big cousin, the sister that I never had. We were both only children, and growing up, she was always, from the beginning, a very popular person, very outgoing person, very involved with school and sporting events, and she was something I always looked up to. She was very gregarious from her earliest years.
And that made her great for the position that she held as a flight attendant.
Oh, absolutely. She was, when she started back in the 60s, they were called stewardesses, not flight attendants, and it was deemed in those days somewhat as a glamorous profession, and they overlooked all the hard work of it, but she fit right in with that profession.
She was very proud of her job. She was very well organized. In fact, I understand that she actually sent postcards out that were dated September 11th.
There were at least 2 cards. She was known as the card lady. She was always sending cards. There was at least 2 cards that people received that she had mailed on the way to the airport that day.
I bet that holds such special significance to those people that received them later.
I would think. She was known as the card lady. She never missed an opportunity to kind of bring some smile to somebody.
I know she brought a lot of smiles to you, Emily. She was your godmother.
Yes.
How involved was she in your daily life? How important a woman was she to you?
She was important to me as a role model, as somebody that I looked up to. She was very classy. She was the epitome of a lady, and I learned so much just from watching her and how she loved her job and she worked hard at it, and it wasn't always easy or perfect, but that she went with a smile on her face every day, and that's something that as an adult I try to emulate, and especially as a parent now.
You have memories, I know, of her that are very dear to you,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a particular incident that happened after she died and you went into her home. Tell me about it.
Well, my father and my mother and I went a little while afterwards to, help clean out her things. It was just, too hard for Eric to do that. So we went and helped, and as we were cleaning out, we found cards that were not yet written out but had a little post-it note on for somebody's birthday, maybe in November or something like that. And I also personally found 2 Christmas gifts marked for myself, wrapped in everything already, and Christmas, Emily, and I still have them, obviously, but that just, there it was, September, and she already had Christmas gifts purchased for me. So,
how special is that to you to know that she was already thinking about you?
It's very special, and it wasn't in any way, shape, or form surprising. None of us went, oh, I can't believe it. We just went, yeah, that's right. And just in everything she did, she just always thought about other people.
You did something very special in your own way to honor her and the impact that she had on your life.
I did. I named my daughter Lorraine. Well, my husband and I named our daughter Lorraine. And actually I was one of the people that did a eulogy for her. And at that time, I had said that if I ever have a daughter, I will name her Lorraine. And Lorraine is only a year and a half. So it was a couple years later until that actually did happen. But and I can only hope that she, has some of those qualities that Lorraine did.
Lorraine lives on in baby Lorraine.
Yes.
We're also honoring the other members of the flight crew and the passengers who died on that day and who were heroes. They saved us from further destruction on the ground. And one way that we're honoring them is to have this Flight 93 memorial. How involved, Ed, are you in that?
I've been following it from the very beginning, and I've been pretty involved since 2005. I was selected to be one of the jurors on the panel that selected the final design, and I've been very involved with the Families of Flight 93 organization since that time. So it's been something I've been in touch with on a daily basis.
Well, those who have never been to Flight 93 and the memorial there may be surprised by what they see. People making the pilgrimage to honor Flight 93 come inside this rusting corrugated metal structure to find out what happened here on September 11th. Its size limits the exhibit to just one room. Visitors huddled together viewing the displays, reading, and leaving their personal messages.
Certainly there's much more to the story of Flight 93 and this incredible story of heroism of the passengers and crew on board. So we really feel that that story deserves much more than an old temporary shed left over from the mining activities, but really deserves a national memorial and publicly accessible national park that anyone can come and learn the story of Flight 93.
But donations for building a more permanent home have fallen short.
So this is the last of the major 3 9/11 memorials that remains to be built and funded and constructed. I'd say that the difference between our project and the one in Washington and the one in New York is the fact that this is a very small and rural area. This area really lacks a philanthropic infrastructure and organization that exists in a big metropolitan area. So we really need donors from all around the country to embrace this national story and recognize that this community needs to be further healed from the scars of 9/11, and that this memorial is a process of doing that. In order to get there, we need continued funding to support building it.
Public generosity over the past decade has allowed planners to complete the project's first phase, the Memorial Plaza and the Arrival Courtyard.
It's intended as a gateway or a threshold. The idea is that you leave behind the parking lot, all the noise, conversations out here, and as you go through that building, you're moving to the most sacred spot on the site. You're getting right up against the crash site, and you'll notice as we get there, the materials start to change. The simple concrete all of a sudden turns a coal black. Some other features start to reveal themselves.
Visitors used to view the crash site from this distance. Now they can get even closer to the heroes of September 11th. This walkway marks the perimeter of where the last human remains were recovered. The surrounding landscape is deceptive. Underneath these planet wildflowers, years of strip mining took a toll on the earth, something that has not escaped the notice of the National Park Service.
And then we're also going to focus a lot on environmental reclamation of the site, planting literally thousands of trees here as part of a reforestation effort to create a living memorial to the passengers and crew. And the final component of that will be a tower of voices, 93-foot tower that contains 40 wind chimes, symbolically for the number of passengers and crew that will help those voices of those who are on board Flight 93 continue to be heard at this site for anyone that visits here.
Also on tap, a new visitor center to help tell the story of the courageous men and women who saved the Capitol from certain destruction. Certainly, it's a story worthy of a more befitting venue than this. You know, Ed, the plans look beautiful, but are you disturbed by the fact that further progress has not been made, that there hasn't been more done in 10 years?
I mean, it's a double-edged sword in that it never seems fast enough in one respect, but when one thinks about the history of memorials of this nature, in some respects it's actually been very quick. I mean, look at the World War II memorial, for example, how long it took until that was completed. So you look at it from both sides and you always wish it was faster.
While we're awaiting the completion of the memorial, we have this opportunity to pay tribute to some of those on Flight 93. How do you think Lorraine would want to be remembered?
I think she'd want to be remembered as the person that we've described. I think she'd probably be embarrassed to be considered a hero or anything of that nature. She didn't make any calls that day. We have no definitive knowledge of her role, and I try very hard not to speculate, but I believe that she did her duty as she saw it, that she had been trained for all those years.
Emily, how will you remember your Aunt Lorraine?
Again, as a parent, I wish that she had been able to meet my children. They would have loved each other, and so I remember her as a role model and somebody who just was